Hello, my friends. Jacob's here one more time, and so are you. I'm happy that you're joining me. Hope you had the best turkey day ever, gobber gobble. If you're in the States, we had one. Thank you all for the wonderful well wishes. But on Turkey Day, I couldn't get away with a little breadcrumb that was dangling in front of me saying, look into this more. And it just led me from one place to another place to the World Cup. That's right, that's going on right now. Big news, right? All of a sudden, I don't remember the World Cup being a big deal in the States here before, but it's a big deal. Taking place, of course, in Qatar. And we know that they're having some issues over there. Like people aren't allowed to go into the stadiums dressed like... St. George, the guy who looks like a crusader, who was part of the Crusades. That Crusader's cross is also known as St. George's cross, which is strange because we've been talking about the Crusades in Rome for quite some time. It's also strange, people were pointing this out to me, that the logo for Qatar was like the Ouroboros. The 8, like $8 for Twitter. That infinity sign. The snake or the dragon eating its own tail. So, yes, very strange. We see it everywhere. From meta to this to that. It's the beginning and the end, right? It's a cycle. And we're entering into a new heaven and a new earth, because that's what happens at the end of this cycle. If the World Cup Ouroboros dragon eating its own tail number 8 infinity sign isn't spooky enough, well, its mascot, the specter, a ghost, with the pentagram on its wing and the fleur-de-lis on its tail, certainly is an interdimensional being, perhaps. Ironically, Nicola3 on Twitter tweeted this out, the movie Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, which was released last year. It takes place at a Christmas party, and all of a sudden everyone's sitting around watching the World Cup. Go figure, the one that's taking place right now in Qatar, 2022. Nicola3 pointed out that there is a Mason, as in free, the number 8, chasing the Brazilian soccer player whose name happens to be Jesus. So here we have a picture of the number 8, a Mason that is free, chasing Jesus down toward the goal. But what happens at Chris Pratt's party for Christmas is the TV starts to freak out. And of course, the people that are watching, they're in fear and they're freaking out too. What's going on? Well, during the World Cup in 2022, a portal opens, and this portal is going to reveal something huge, something scary, that the whole world will see. A portal that opens up the future. The future that there is going to be a war between aliens. So of course you see the army coming through this portal that takes place in 2022 in Qatar at the World Cup. But don't be scared, just part of the show, right? Mason chasing Jesus. 8 billion people on the planet. Biden celebrating his 80th birthday. Guy's old. But as Thanksgiving is going down, and of course the Ethan has like this high temperature that won't go down up to like 100 and almost 104. Had to bring him to the old urgent care. We don't even know what's going on, but he's doing a little better today. He's just very stuffy. As all of that's happening, in between all of this, I'm getting all of these promptings to look into certain things. Like a couple of days ago, I saw someone shared St. George. There was a picture of, that famous painting of St. George slaying the dragon, this one. Well, I was struck by this magnificent painting that was recently discovered, hidden, St. George and the Dragon, found while renovating a basilica church in Maggiore, which is, it's Italy. Struck me as strange. Why did it strike me as strange? Because if you remember, I did a video where I had talked about how they portrayed the green ruler of the world, Vlad Zelensky, that guy, when I did, remember he dresses in green all the time? He's got the green chair, he's always in green. His name means green. And I did a whole show about it being, is this the green horse of the apocalypse? It was a strange video, of course. I released it on 2/22/2022. I actually shared this portrait that they were kind of pawning, they were selling, raising money for the people that were dealing with all of this stuff that's going down, and that, hey, it's a bird, it's a crane, hey, so I shared it because I thought it was so strange, this picture. But it was that picture, that St. George picture with him, slaying the dragon, which in that picture that they were selling was Vladimir Putin. Putin. They're putting Putin on the old merch. Now, what's interesting about all that, because at that time, I have to remind you, Pluto was the great return of Pluto. Pluto, another name for Pluto, Hades. Another name for Hades, hell. Hell was following close behind, which is interesting because in Revelation chapter 6, that's what happens. Come, I looked, and there was before me a green horse, and its rider's name was Death. And Hades was following close behind. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by wild beasts of the earth. Interesting, because the very next line has to do with saints being, killed off. It was not a good thing. I saw under the altar the souls of those who've been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, Lord, must we deal with all of these the dates of man and all of this issue? How long must we deal with all of this inflation?" He heard all the people that were suffering. God hears this. "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Which is interesting. We've been talking a lot about the blood, right? Yeah, under the blood, Exodus of Egypt. That this is all of these things have to do with the blood. And there's a big deal going on with there's a whole hashtag with blood, pure. But, it's this whole thing. When are you going to avenge us with the things that they're doing to the blood? Strange, the timing of it. So, of course, I shared that. But there's more to this story. there's more to this story indeed. It's very strange. So I went back and I looked at that video, this video. Something about St. George. Couldn't get it out of my system. I didn't know. I'm like, why, Lord, why? So all day I'm just researching it. Turns out St. George, he was an officer. Let me read this to you. I'll just read it right from the old Wikipedia page. And I'll fill you in on all the other good stuff. He was always known to be closed as a crusader. You know, the crusade. How long have we been talking about the crusaders on the show? The Knights Templar and all of this stuff. An armor also with a lance. He was always pictured riding a white horse, often slaying a dragon in the east. And of course, emblazed on his armor or his cloak was always a red cross. This one. Crusader's Cross, St. George Cross, right? Interesting. What's interesting to me is the fact that they found this painting all of a sudden, just discovered. I'm like, that's interesting. That's weird. And then the news about what's going on over at the World Cup, where they're not letting people in because they're dressed like St. George. Here's the thing. According to tradition, he was a soldier in the Roman army. St. George was a soldier of Cappadocian Greek origin, and he was a member of the Praetorian Guard of the Roman Emperor Diocletian. But here's the thing, right? He refused to serve the Roman gods. Roman gods like Artemis, the Roman gods like Apollo, the Roman gods that we've been talking on the show. St. George, good old St. George, he refused to worship him, and so he was martyred, which is interesting. Because one would think that if we look at things, you know, like as a timetable, that when you're going back in time and you're saying, oh, here's the green horse of the apocalypse, the very next thing that happens is, you know, the martyrdom and the persecution of the saints, that perhaps St. George is being showcased and revealed for a reason. Kanye, because he's doing all sorts of interesting things, don't you know? He's I've been sharing on Twitter. By the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, JacobIsrael71, I post a lot there. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Telegram. Telegram's more of just a notice. All the descriptions are in the link below. You hit description of the video, all the links are there, everything. If you want to get merch, if you want anything you want to get in contact with, it's all down there. I don't reach out to you and say, contact me on WhatsApp. I don't say text this number. That's not me. Those are scammers. I talk about this a lot. It's very easy to contact me. I get a lot of emails from people saying, hey, did you just reach out to me? I'm like, no, I probably would have reached out to you normally, like normal means. It's either me in the comments section or it's not. All you gotta do is click on the avatar to make sure. I have all the subs, not somebody who was just joining YouTube yesterday. On Twitter, I share out about how yay, because he changed his name legally to the Light. You know, years ago I said that he would be like the picture of what they want, you know, in Christianity, supposedly the religious bad religion, that he would be a symbol. And people, he went to Mar-a-Lago to visit Trump. He was asking Trump to be his vice president. That's something, right? You want to talk about two guys who think very highly of themselves coming together. Could you imagine asking, you want to be my vice president? Yeah, how silly is that? Just probably to drum up all sorts of news and everything else. But he also brought with him somebody who is incredibly controversial, known to be not a great guy, known to be like, this would be, after all of his comments about Jewish people and all this hate that he's spewed out and all this nonsense, he then brings somebody else in. It's very, very disturbing the day that we're in to see that this is somebody who's running for president of the United States. Not to mention, he's supposed to be some holier than thou guy, right? Because he's, I'm doing it all for the Lord, doing it all for the Lord. A month ago, he shares a video where he's showing really naughty stuff, the stuff that you really shouldn't be looking at. It's really bad stuff. It starts with the P and ends with the N, and it has 4 letters. It rhymes with horn. And he's sharing this, and he's putting it in people's faces to make them uncomfortable. A tree is known by its fruit. He's actually, they're looking into sexual harassment charges against him right now, Adidas. So much for that. People, you got to treat everybody else with respect. You got to be kind to them. You got to show them love. You got to show them compassion. We got to stop with this nonsense of thinking that we're better than other people. And there's this division's got to end. Got to stop putting your mind into this. This is what I said. I said either the simulation's really on high gear right now, or this is a big psyop that's gone wrong. Even Kanye shared out a picture of George slaying the dragon September 25th, 2020. It's like, what is going on? You know who was buried at St. George's Chapel? That was the place, that's where the royals go. Queen Elizabeth. Interesting. The plot thickens. One can deduce when you look at all these things. Is St. George a picture of good triumphing over evil? Is that what's happening today? Or is it a picture of something else? Is it a picture of, possible, you better buy into the Roman gods or else? Ironically, they're really pushing this new one world religion. It's like kind of the new thing. Is that going to be the next thing that we see on the horizon? I saw somebody on Twitter, her name's Zerky, if it's her, I don't know, put out a picture of the Stone of Destiny, Jacob's Pillow. I've talked about it on the show. I did a video about it a long time ago. I did 2, actually, about the Stone of Destiny. It's a big deal, right? Connected, believe it or not, to St. George and the coronation and all these things. So it was just strange to me that this person tweets this out about the Stone of Destiny, and then I realize, I'm like, hey, let me go back and let me watch that show, and I'm looking at the show, and I'm going, wow, this is just an amazing show. Stone of Destiny, Jacob's Pillow, Jacob's Pillar, right? This is a big thing, spiritually speaking, and I think it's going to be a big thing in the world very soon. It's a mystery, and it's something that I'm going to share with all of you, because it's connected to all of this stuff. So watch the video. I guarantee you haven't seen this. And if you've seen it, watch it again because it's really good. I did it years ago. But the Stone of Destiny, all of this stuff is coming together in some way. And I think that we need to really be prayed up for what's coming next. Because kind of sounds like there's a huge shakeup coming. Huge shakeup coming. So, enjoy the show.
Thousands of years ago, a young shepherd named Jacob left Beersheba, which means a sevenfold oath, and set out to find a wife. When he reached a certain place in his life, he stopped and he fell asleep, taking a stone as a pillow. As Jacob slept, he dreamed of a ladder, a stairway to heaven, resting on earth where angels were ascending and descending upon the place where he slept, God at the top, saying that I will be with you for the rest of your life. When Jacob woke up, he understood that God was in that place, and he understood that he made a covenant with him, and that a great nation would come from his own life. So he made a pillar, a monument to this moment, and he named it Bethel, which means the house of God. Well, this stone, this pillar, has followed Israel and the descendants of Israel. There's a picture of it right there. And for thousands of years, royalty has been crowned upon it. Goes by many names: the Stone of Scone, Leah Fell, and also the Holy Grail.
Royal occasion for a symbol of Scottish sovereignty. The Stone of Scone was used in the coronation of Scotland's ancient kings, and the procession along Edinburgh's Royal Mile brought 10,000 people onto the streets as it was escorted to the castle. An RAF flypast added to the spectacle as the parade continued.
The stone has been sought by many people for thousands of years. King David was crowned upon it. Many think today it actually resides in Scotland.
The formal handover took place in the Great Hall of Edinburgh Castle before an audience of 800 dignitaries. It was conducted by the Queen's representative, Prince Andrew.
I now, therefore, on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, place the Stone of Scone in the care of you, the Commissioners for the keeping of the regalia of Scotland.
But there is a mystery that is about to be discovered. Secret societies have fought for it, murdered for it. The all-seeing eye is said to be a symbol of it. This stone, Jacob's stone, that people have forgotten about, that all the heavy hitters in the world gathered together to see. Well, today we find out where that stone may be.
Hello, my friends. Jacob is here once again. Thanks for pressing play, for spending a little time with me, for going on this adventure with me, which is exactly what this is going to be. A crusade, a quest, if you will, for the Stone of Destiny. What is it? Don't worry, I'm going to explain. I did a whole video about this, actually. There's going to be a link below, so you can check it out if you need a little catch-up time. But basically, it's about the Stone of Destiny. It goes by many names. Some call it the Holy Grail. Everybody thinks that the Holy Grail's a cup, right, that held the blood of Jesus, but no! Come to find out, it's the stone. It's Jacob's pillow. It's the stone that Jacob went to sleep on when he was much younger, and he had a dream. So shepherds back in the day, they take a little, they take like a little flat rock, they put like some pelts and stuff on top of it, they go all little night-nights on a pillow. On this stone, in that place, Jacob had a dream. In the dream, there was a staircase, a ladder that appeared to him going up to heaven. And he realized that angels were descending and ascending upon this place that Jacob slept. And he woke up and he said, surely this is the house of God. And he had this great understanding. And he thought that it was so important, he dedicated his life to God, to serving God. Now, later in Jacob's life, after serving God, he had amassed a great flocks. He had done all right for himself. He had had some kids. He had a couple of wives. And later in his life, it would be like the equivalent of me right about now. God says, go back to the stone. So I did a whole show about this, about the Stone of Destiny, and I explained how I was going to go find it. Because from my research, I understood that that stone was actually in Scotland, a place called Edinburgh Castle. Okay, a little history. This stone, which was Jacob's pillow that he slept on, right? So Jacob was, the founder of the 12 nations. You should know by now, back in the day. Well, this stone became very, very important because it became a great, great people. And so they carried this stone with them, just like they did the Ark of the Covenant. So important it was that this stone is said to be placed in the first temple. And then when it was destroyed, that they wanted it for the second temple. But what happened was they said, no, because it had a crack in it. They didn't think it looked nice. They didn't think it was going to fit well. So it was actually, some say, is the stone that the builders rejected, which metaphorically and symbolically is really talking about Christ, because that's the real stone. But the literal stone, Jacob's literal stone that was being carried around by Moses, right? That Moses is said to have struck this stone so water gushed out so people could drink it. All of it's metaphor and allegory, but they say that it historically literally happened. Now we know that's true because a lot of people have been crowned on this stone, like King David, for example, as well as others, all the way to Elizabeth. The Stone of Destiny. It was a big scandal. People thought that it was stolen, and then there was a fake, and this, that, and the other thing. Well, historically, they say that this stone is now in Scotland, right? And how did it get to Scotland? Well, I talk about it in the first video. I'll give you a little brief summary, okay? So back in the day, okay, when King Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon comes in, he's going to destroy Israel. He's going to destroy this nation. He's going to destroy Jerusalem. He's going to destroy it all, right? Well, Jeremiah had found some favor, so Jeremiah and some others, they get the open door to get out. So one of the daughters of the king, Tefi and others, they escape, and guess what they bring with them? They bring the stone, and it ends up in Ireland. There's historical evidence of this. This is not a joke. That's why a lot of places are named Dan this and Dan that, because it's from the tribe of Dan. So the point is, what I'm saying is, there's a belief that this stone is in Scotland, which catches you up to where I am today. This is an important stone. There's a prophecy about when, the owners return, that the stones will cry out. I made a little joke about visiting Scotland. So much so that when the local news interviewed me on Channel 12 here in Long Island, it's like Long Island's place, shout out Channel 12, when they interviewed me when I was walking through the mall for the Dan shopping for her, and they asked me, where do you want to go for your New Year's? I said Scotland.
Do you have any bucket list items that you want to?
Yes, I want to go to Scotland. Every day for me is a New Year's resolution.
Right, you just want to be a better person.
Yeah. I don't wait till New Year's. Don't wait till New Year's. What's the point?
Just do it.
If you're not living your life for more, you're not living your life.
I like that.
Thank you.
But listen.
I'm here all week. Because I'm shopping for my wife. Hi, honey bear. And I told all of you this. I explained this, that there was a possibility I think it would have been cool. But guess what? The reality is, it's too much money. It's too much money. I mean, and I'm not going to come on here and ask all of you to give me money so that I can do that. That's so I kind of was half wanting to do it, half not wanting to do it. Danielle and I had talked about maybe taking a weekend, bringing EE to Scotland. I didn't really want to go. But I really, really wanted to see the stone. I really, really wanted to understand why it was such a big deal. And then I see a comment from one of you. That's right, Giant. I'm talking to you, pal. He had left a comment saying that he understood that the stone was not in Scotland, that was a fake, that the real stone is somewhere else. And I immediately was like, hey man, I'm sorry if you thought I ignored your first comment, which I didn't do. I didn't. By the way, a lot of you, when you leave your comments, I do the best. When I go there, if I see it, I comment, and I love it. So you should leave me a comment. You should tell me something, and I'll try to respond. But if I don't respond, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I promise I'm not. So I responded, and I said, well, I'm going to check this out. And I did. And guess what I found out? The Stone of Destiny, the one that I'm destined to see and bring all of you around with me, well, it's a little closer than I thought. Turns out, for all intents and purposes, it's in my backyard, New York City. So Giant tells me about this cool documentary about a code breaker who solved some amazing problem that people for years were trying to uncover, because they said that this code that was hidden in a monument called the Shepherd's Monument, that if anybody understood this code, that it would point the way to the Holy Grail. But we find out that the Holy Grail is actually Jacob's pillow. The documentary is called Lapis Exilis. It's the lost secrets of the Illuminati, and I'll put the link below. But here you have this credible documentary from this codebreaker, this brilliant codebreaker who's pictured with all sorts of forward-thinking people, very bright man. And he solved this challenge, and it led him on a journey to uncover where the stone is. Turns out it's at the Roerich Master Building, 310 Riverside Drive in New York City, New York. Now, I know a lot of you are going to flock there, just like I am. I'm going to be doing a show, much like the documentary that I saw, and it's going to be coming up in a couple of, in the coming weeks. I'm going to go to this stone. I've already reached out to the museum.
Hello, Nicholas Roerich Museum.
Yes, hi, how are you? I'm wondering if maybe there's somebody there. Do you have someone that handles your media? My name's Jacob Israel. I'm doing a show on the museum's namesake. And I was wondering if there was someone there that I could interview.
So the best thing would be you will get immediate answer if you write an email, and then you can get in touch with the person who would be a perfect one. And it's on inquiries@roerich.org.
Yeah, the questions I have to do with, the stone of destiny, and there's just such a wonderful history there, and that I've come to learn. And I'd like to go to the building, and I'd also like to, tour the facility, and then have somebody give me some insight into this. Because from all the research I've done, it seems like this is the most likely place for where that stone could be found. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to answer. You really have...
I'm going to send that email, see if I can get the director to talk to me about it. But it was interesting how the receptionist said, yes, she knows about the stone, but she can't talk about it. So why would it be at this random place in New York? Well, it turns out the Master Apartments is the name of the place, called the Master Building. It derives from the Master Institute of United Arts, which was founded in 1920 by this explorer, this artist, this very powerful and connected man, Nicholas Roerich. This guy connected to so many people. Let me tell you about, as the documentary goes, okay, spoiler alert, basically, as the documentary goes, you uncover that Roerich has obtained the stone, or a part of the stone, and that he made it actually the head of the corner. He made it a cornerstone in his own building, the Master Building, here pictured in 1929. Now, what's remarkably strange about all of this is that Einstein was there. These heads of physics and movers and shakers like Max Planck was there. You want to hear crazy weird? The Illuminati all-seeing eye on the dollar bill? Yeah. That cornerstone, right? Roerich, it was his suggestion. He was the one that was instrumental in putting the all-seeing eye there. So it turns out that Jacob's pillow is somehow connected to that as well. The plot thickens. All of these heavy hitters and these major players were there when it was placed there. This is the same year that Einstein came out with his unified theory. said that this was the most important find, the most important thing that he'd ever done, including his original, theory of relativity. So this stone that King David was crowned upon, that royalty was crowned upon, this stone that people fought for, that people were murdered for, this stone that the Jesuits themselves were said to be wanting a part of, that the Rosicrucian order themselves hired Louis Perry to discover. This stone is waiting right there in New York City. So guess what? We're going to New York City, everybody. We're going to a museum. I'm in the process of putting it together, and I wanted you all to hear about it because this is insane. Because I really, really, really wanted to go to Scotland. Like, I wanted to. My wife was like, honey, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think? You're going to have some memory and you're going to find out that you're reincarnated? I'm like, no. But seriously. This is history. This is cool. My name's Jacob Israel for a reason, right? Why not explore and find out if Jacob's Pillow's here? Jacob Israel today from Jacob Israel in the past. The two can become one. Who knows? I think it's fun. And I'm glad that you're along for the ride with me. Thank you, Giant, for pointing that out. And thank you for all of you that are going to like, you're going to comment, you're going to share, you're going to tell your friends, because this is going to be cool. And then maybe I'll wrap it all together in like one long episode so you can find out. Isn't that cool? Right? I thought Scotland's not going to happen, even though I said it on TV. Oh yeah, I want to go. Wasn't going to happen. Now I don't have to go. I'm not going to go because I don't believe the stone is there. I am fully persuaded, if it's real, which I believe it is, that it's right there in my backyard and always has been. I love each and every one of you too, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
September 10th. Mars hangs closer to the Earth than it has in 6,000 years. Like the light that led men from the East to a child in a manger, it could well be a sign of good things to come. Thomas James shall be his name. The world will change because of him. In the small town of Bethel, in a time not unlike our own, a child with a great purpose is born. Years later, alienated by his peers and abused, Thomas suffers a devastating loss. When it appears he has nothing left to live for in the world, this is when his true calling begins. While trying to escape the sinister powers that be, a terrifying vision haunts him. Miraculous events seem to follow the peculiar young man as he struggles to come to terms with what he was born to do. The stage is set. The time is at hand. The truth will rise and a revolution will begin. The startling revelation of who Thomas James is, truly, will change the lives of those around him and set off a chain of events long ago foretold. There is more to this novel than one might think. Inside these pages hides a treasure just waiting to be discovered. So if you've ever wondered if there's more to life, or why it is we suffer, then this story will not only captivate you, it may just open your eyes to a truth that could set you free. Find out what is in us all that makes us heed the calling.